There we go.
Woohoo!
So it should be back. Should be back soon. Is it on this one though? Let me see if we have another stream up or not. Oh, we have a third one up now. So okay. All right.
What are you seeing?
Huh?
What
Oh,
are
I
you seeing?
I had to reload the new stream here. All right. Sorry. Basically, what happened was the Jitsis, they get an hour apiece, and you have to basically recreate a new stream.
Okay.
I can't find the old one because I was in the middle of typing in chat and it went away.
Go
Hmm.
to your subscriptions in your YouTube dash, and
Yes,
you should see all three of James's streams. You have the original one, which says
there we
upcoming.
go.
Then you have the 1 hour one, and then you have the new one, which is part 2. So I'm gonna go ahead and hide the original. So now I only have part 1 and part 2. So now let's see if people are still here. Now that, or we can just say forget it and we'll just keep talking. So
Well, we'll keep talking.
all right, so let's get into Tron Legacy.
Looks like a good way to do that.
Yes. So okay,
20
so
years later.
yeah, and actually it was let's see, 2010. It's like 28 years later. So Kevin Flynn's got a kid now, and all of a sudden Flynn goes missing, and that's where the story picks up with an older now, an older whatever the hell his name is. What
Sam?
the Sam? Thank you. I kept wanting to say Sean. You kept saying Sean Astin. I'm like, what the hell? No, it's so Sam is now grown up. He is supposedly the he owns the most shares in the company. So I don't want to say he owns the company, but he
Uh,
basically he I if you're the largest shareholder, wouldn't you technically own the company?
yes. Yes, you would.
You at least own most of the company.
I mean, if that's the case, then why did he have to break in? You
Because,
see him laser pin the camera for whatever reason that somehow makes the camera go all jolty.
Because
And
if you pay attention, he literally only goes in to play pranks on the
yeah,
um
the
he
annual prank on the
plays a
company.
prank once a year
Hmm.
on the company. And you don't want you don't want to use your key card to do that.
That's true, because then they would know he's there. So instead, you tweak out a camera and then you run up 89 flights of stairs up to a server that is apparently way, way, way high up in the building. And I base that only on the fact that the last floor that it shows him going up on the stairs says 89 or something like that. I'm like, did you just run up 89 flights of stairs to get to a server room? Who in their right mind would put a server room on the 89th floor of a building? Usually aren't server rooms or like that kind of thing. Aren't those usually in the basement of these big buildings? That would be the safest place to put them, wouldn't it?
Not necessarily. It depends on the structure itself.
Oh, Ron Corp says it's a dumb fun movie, in his opinion.
well,
I know, but so
see,
but
when I saw Legacy, it was I saw it in the theater,
oh
3D.
yep,
Ugh.
yep. I saw mine in an Omnimax theater. I was like, that was so. I had to go across town. This is when I still live in Oregon. I had to go across town to this newly opened Omnimax theater, and they just happened to have it for like a weekend. It's like it was in 3D Omnimax, and they had these reclining bucket seats that you get to sit in,
Yes.
and it was like completely took up your entire field of vision. So I'm like,
Yes.
I'm sitting here with these gigantic eyes bulging and this big gigantic smile on my face. I'm like, this is the best movie ever.
And you got even the
Wow.
previews were in 3D.
Yes.
And this was the fourth Pirates that they did a trailer on.
Mhm.
So when Barbosa pulls his sword out, you're seeing it in 3D.
Yeah, yeah, it was pretty gross. Wasn't that on Stranger Tides? I believe was the fourth movie.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, yeah, so,
That was the Fountain of Youth one.
yeah, with the
Yeah.
mermaids and all that.
Uh-huh. That's
But
exactly it.
but yeah. So that was like probably one of my best movie experiences ever. So,
Mine too.
I
Because
mean,
I wear glasses,
yeah.
so 3D is we're talking 80s 3D and even early 90s 3D.
Mm.
The glasses never worked for me.
Well, did you ever? I don't know if I mean Angela, you probably have. If you live in Southern California, that is. Have you ever been to like Disneyland or Disney World?
You're
And
talking about Captain EO?
yes, Captain freaking EO. When they put those glasses on and that one little creature starts flying toward everybody, everybody's reaching their arms out, and you're like, I can reach it, I can reach it. That was one of the coolest 3Ds I've ever been to. And I went, and I mean, we lived in San Diego. My father lived in Anaheim, which is like, he lived like less than 2 miles away from Disneyland. So,
Oh.
yeah, and in the summer, we would always go to his place in the summer, and we would always watch the fireworks at night. You know,
Oh
but
wow.
we went to Disneyland dozens of times as kids. So we went. My favorite place was always the Star Tours and the Captain EO and Space Mountain. Favorite three by far, and also the People Mover I love too. And you want to know
I
why?
love the People Mover. It
Well,
was my favorite ride.
did you ever go on the People Mover when they actually had scenes from
Had
the light
TRON.
cycle? Yes.
Yes.
Yep, and then they had the air that was blowing up at you from below, so that you can kind of get the feel of going as fast as the light cycles.
Mm-hmm.
So freaking awesome! I love. I mean, I would just stay on the People Mover because not a whole lot of people went on it, and it was like kind of like a relaxation from. It was a kind of relaxation from having to stand in lines, whatever. But nobody ever went on it, so I was just like, I'm just going to stay on it. And the person at the thing's like, okay. So I just went through the People Mover several times in a row just so I can say I'm living Tron.
Well, I don't like roller coasters, so like the only roller coasters that I go on are ones with water.
Oh, like
So I went
Splash
on
Mountain.
Splash Mountain,
Yeah.
Hey, Tier.
Hey.
and they actually have a smaller log ride.
Oh yeah.
Um,
There was that log flume ride. I know exactly what you're talking
mhm.
about. It was in Frontierland. It was over
Yes,
by Big Thunder Mountain.
but I hang out when I do go to Disneyland, which I haven't been. Oh my God, I don't even. I think the last time I went to Disneyland was in 2001 for my
Yeah.
middle daughter's birthday.
And hi, Doctor Frankenstein's ghost.
Um,
Yeah, that's
but
Tier.
Okay.
the rides that I like are like the paddle boat
Oh, okay. Okay.
and the raft over to Huck Finn's Island.
Yes. Hey,
And I like
did you ever get up to San Dimas and go to Raging Waters?
no.
Oh, Raging Water was awesome. If you like just like your standard water kind of rides, there's one of them. I think it was. I don't know if they still have it, even if Raging Water still exists. But there's one of them that you can just lazily just sit on a floating ring, and it would just go all the way around in this big kind of loop that kind of looks like Mickey Mouse's ears.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a couple of times when you would actually go underneath a cover, and they would have like a big water spray over you.
Yeah.
But that was awesome. But yeah, I can definitely share your like for water rides. Which is kind of weird because I get seasick very easily, and we went on fishing boats all the time as kids. So
San Dimas.
yes, the same place.
Napoleon.
Yep. So great.
Yes.
He totally thrashed.
We actually have the
So San
SeaWorld
Dimas is a
actually
what?
created a water park that's actually really close to me.
Are you in San Diego?
Yeah.
I sort of forgot I lived in San Diego for 16 years.
Yeah,
remember that.
we actually talked about
Talk
this
about it.
before.
Yes. I completely forgot. I am so sorry. But yeah,
No
we went to
worries.
SeaWorld a bunch too, and Mission Bay and all that kind of stuff.
I'm
Mhm.
with you, Rotten. Never been.
Ah, everybody should go to Disneyland or Disney World at least once in their lives.
But San Dimas is a real city in
Yeah.
California.
Yes.
Yes.
It wasn't just in Bill and Ted's. San Dimas does exist.
James is
That's
gonna go to Disneyland with me when he moves out.
You're gonna move to California? What's wrong with you?
I
Well, a lot.
Mm.
But I'm doing it for love.
Oh, slave to love. But anyway, yes, I've been to Six Flags, Magic Mountain. Rotten Corp says Cedar Point. Cedar Point is. We've actually been to Cedar Point, son and I, and never been to any Busch Gardens.
Isn't
Yeah,
Cedar Point where they have one of
SeaWorld
the
is
world's best roller coasters?
I don't know. Cedar Point is in Ohio, but
SeaWorld is actually a Busch Gardens
it is now.
company. It
Oh,
always has been.
that I didn't know. But we went to see. Oh, my favorite. It's my favorite place at SeaWorld was the penguin exhibit because it's nice and cold inside.
It is really cold in there.
Because it's always well, it can get really hot in San Diego. So we always, whenever we went to SeaWorld, I just hit out in the penguin encounter, like, okay, I'm good here, thanks.
As creepy as it is, I love the shark encounter.
Yeah, that was nice.
Uh,
We actually went to the when Sun came out, and I lived in Oregon at the time. We went out to the Oregon Coast Aquarium, where Keiko was
oh,
reoriented to the sea, and yeah, so that was kind of neat. And Keiko had his own. It's not a she; it was a he actually. But Keiko kind of did whatever he wanted, and they didn't let him. They didn't do any performing. Of course, I mean they're trying to reorient him to living back in the water, and most of the time Keiko would just kind of hang out on the other side of his enclosure from where the glass was, where the people were, because he was like he just didn't care about people.
yeah.
So, but yeah, God, we are we are branching way out again. But I don't mind so much. But Six Flags been there, and Magic Mountain was okay. Only problem is, I think I got sick on one of the roller coasters there.
See,
But
Magic Mountain is a waste of money for me because I don't like roller coasters.
yeah, they have a lot of big ones too. Especially what was it? That big wooden one. I think they called it the Colossus or something like that.
I think so.
But I'm not a big fan of roller coasters myself, anyway. But so anyway,
Oh, I am. But anyway, back
are you
to,
are you a thrill seeker?
yes, I am.
Ah, okay. Well, there you go, Angela. Have fun with that one. So, at any
I
rate,
will stand at
Only
the
I,
bottom of the roller coaster and watch him ride it.
only I would look at a cop after being caught having sex in a parking lot, going, "Want to join?"
that's his thrill, huh? Hmm.
One of
No.
them.
So anyway, back to the movie. So
Yeah.
he climbs up 89 flights of stairs. He messes around with the release of the newest piece of software, NCON 12, which was the
Which was,
most secure operating system ever.
Ever.
yeah.
And what is this big thing everybody always has with Cillian Murphy? Everybody says he did such a great job and uncredited, blah blah blah. And I'm like, yeah. So is he some big famous person that everybody seems to love? Because every time somebody
Oh,
even
Peaky
mentions it,
Blinders.
I
oh,
don't even know who that is.
Yeah, he plays the middle brother in Peaky Blinders,
I
and
have no
he's the
idea.
brain.
I have no idea what that is.
It's a British show. It's
Oh,
on Amazon Prime. It's
ah,
really good. Basically, he comes back from World War One,
okay.
and him and his two brothers are basically gangsters,
Oh, okay.
and they pretty much ruled up until World War II.
Oh. Okay. But
Yeah.
he played this very small uncredited role of Edward Dillinger, who this is the son of the original antagonist
Uh,
in the first movie.
Tron. Yeah.
Yes. So I believe there's also some cut scenes of or unused scenes in the second one where he's communicating from his father or with his father, excuse me. And at the very end, of course, is kind of a tie back to the first one. It says end of line. So I was like,
Uh-huh.
okay.
Yep. But
So he's in it for all of what, about 45 seconds.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, basically.
But
What's the difference between 11 and 12? We put a 12 on the box.
yeah.
Uh,
And the way that he says it too, he goes, see, because I believe it was Alan. He goes, so what's the difference between Income 11 and 12? And the guy, I believe his name was Mr. Mackey, believe it or not. He goes, oh, we put a 12 on the box.
oh,
Yeah.
So
But you're missing the main joke of the running gag between 1 and 2. That's a really big door.
oh no, oh yeah, that's right. Well, the thing is, well, in the first one, we kind of forgot to cover that too. One of the pieces of trivia that I always remember is that in the first one, when they were actually at that door, that is actually a door that they used to protect from radiation. That is a real radiation door that the laser place that they're there. Lawrence Livermore, I believe, was the laser lab, but they actually had a radiation spill that,
Uh-huh.
that occurred prior to the movie being filmed, and Cindy Morgan's character, her shoes actually touched some of the radioactive material and had to be decontaminated. So, but yeah, that was a good tie back when Sam's opening and he goes, now that is a big door. Just like his father said in the first movie. He goes, now that is a big door.
Yeah.
But so anyway, Cillian Murphy does his little kill command in Unix or whatever that OS it was he's using, and he disappears to go and call somebody. I believe from what they say he went off to call his father, but nobody ever knows. And then the rest is history. and then Sam goes up to the roof to do a base jump off of this giant crane.
Uh-huh.
I was like,
Trust me, your boss is going to be okay with it.
yeah, he goes, the boss works with stakeholders, right? Or no, something like that. And he goes, well, who is the biggest the shareholder? And the security goes, I don't know, some kid. And then Sam goes, yeah, that's me. The guy goes, you're Mr. Flynn? He goes, it's your father's company. And he goes, not anymore. And then he just freaking falls backwards and deploys the parachute, which in real life would never open up that quickly, and he'd be like a crimson stain on the on the street in real life. But there is some very good, interesting parallels between, when Sam gets caught, because he looks up and there's a helicopter over him, and then after he gets put into the grid, all of a sudden when the recognizer is above him, he does the exact same thing. So it's like this nice little parallel between the two.
Yeah.
And I have to say, this is probably one of the best soundtracks I've ever heard. People are like, "Oh, it's Daft Punk, yeah!" But I go beyond.
Really enjoyed the
music. Yeah, I kind of go beyond the whole. Oh, it was made by Daft Punk, because they did such a great job with both the music, the digital, and also the fact that they had a lot of a symphony, like symphonic kind, that they blended the two. They blended this electronic with a symphonic a score.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
And they interwove the two so well that it was seamless. Because a lot of people give the first movie a lot of crap about the soundtrack because it just had this outdated sound. And Wendy Carlos, she was the one that composed most of the music for the first movie. She actually intentionally wanted to blend three different styles: your analog, your digital, and then some of your older orchestric, like especially with the pipe organ that she plays at the end during the credits music. She was kind of going beyond what normal movies would do at the time. So now all of a sudden you're in 2010, making this movie where those kinds of musical score integrations are normal. So everyone's like, yeah, that's such a great soundtrack. The first one had a great soundtrack, but nobody really cared for that kind of integration in the music. So she kind of got a bad rap, I think. But anyway,
The first movie was all about uh, stepping off the edge, doing
yes,
something new.
yeah,
And unfortunately, people weren't really ready for it.
yes, that is I completely agree with that. It was ahead of its time. And even then, at the time, sci-fi was just starting to make its emergence.
Mhm.
So then you have this one, and yes, you can say whatever you want about hating Tron Legacy, Doctor, but I will have to politely disagree.
I actually really enjoyed it. Um, Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh no, it's fine. I feel like I talk too much whenever I talk about this anyway, so I'm kind of holding myself back.
Get in the
I
candy
have
store.
Yeah.
um I have to say that I'm gonna sound a little bit like my mom and Bruce Boxleitner though, and say that one of my all-time favorite actors was in this movie. Um,
Jeff
his
Bridges.
name's no, well, okay, beyond Jeff Bridges because I mean, Starman was a great movie.
It was.
Very head
I
licking.
could talk about that too. I love Starman. That was a great movie.
But James Frame played Jarvis,
Oh yeah, 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 yeah,
and I'm
yeah.
like, oh my god, I haven't seen him in forever.
But they totally gave him the biggest nerdy or the biggest nerdy role you could probably.
Right,
He's basically Clue's little lackey. He's like his little bitch. But the thing is, he was only doing as he was programmed to do, just like a program should.
Mhm.
He's like the yes man. So he's like, I'm kissing Clue's ass when he's around, and then when Sam is around, hey, I'm gonna kiss his ass too because he's the son of the creator. You know,
Right.
and then all of a sudden at the end, I mean, kind of spoiler alert for those that we're not really following the linear time. All of a sudden, Clue comes back and Sam had taken Flynn's disc back, and Clue comes back. They're looking at the disc being missing, and then all of a sudden they see the light fighter go on. I'll get into that later. And Clue looks over to Rinsler, and then Rinsler kind of twists his head a little bit to look right at Jarvis. And then Clue just goes, phew! He just cuts him down.
I
As,
felt so bad.
as Jarvis
I
says,
was like,
death to the users. He just goes, he just gets his throat cut completely. It's like, Clue, you're an asshole. But hey, Clue he won't tolerate anybody going against his plan. And all of a sudden, he sees Jarvis as this big turncoat. It's like, your ass is dead now. Slice. And then
right.
he just nonchalantly puts his disc back on his back, like I just murdered my first lieutenant right here. Whatever. Then it's like I just murdered him. It's like, oh, come on, guys, let's make our light jets and let's go chase the light fighter that they just stole from us. But yeah, I mean, there was a lot of just those kind of events that happened in the movie that just made me laugh because he just completely just kills somebody without even caring. I mean, yeah, I mean, yes, that is kind of his downside, but we can talk about characters in a bit. But there is something I didn't have to say a lot about Clue's character, and that would be just what a lot of people are saying. Oh, Clue is evil. He's evil. He's not.
He's really not.
He's doing what
What
he was
he
created to do.
Yeah.
Okay, now we're going to get into the argument that James and I were having
Okay.
because I look at them as okay. I look at both movies as this kind of a treatise on the state of religion and people's relation to God right now.
Yes.
Which the first movie you had a lot more people of faith during the
Hmm.
time that
Yeah.
came
Yeah.
out,
Yeah.
and it was dealing with the users as the deity figure
Hmm.
versus the programs as the created beings.
Yeah.
And then in the second movie, it's the situation that we have now where people are trying to destroy religion and the existence of God.
Yes.
And it's a really well done um visual on that.
It was a nice analogy where the programs, they would actually get on their knees and start praying because Kevin Flynn is right there. He is basically their god, their creator.
Mhm.
So they're treating him like a deity. So continue.
And basically Clue is at that point where he realizes that God is working toward God's plan, and it's not necessarily going to jive with what he thinks should be God's plan.
Yeah, there's a lot of philosophy that's in this movie that a lot of people also overlook. I've actually watched a couple of really good videos on YouTube that they actually talk about the philosophy of the movie and the message that I guess that they're trying to put across in that, you know, Kevin Flynn is the creator of the grid, and the programs know it. Clue knows it, but the thing is, Clue and the other programs, they can only do what they're programmed to do. You know, so does that innately make Clue evil?
Well, that
It
kind of gets cleared up anyway at the end,
It really does.
where Clue says, "Did I not do what you told me to do?"
Yeah, I mean, he makes the argument
And
of I did everything you ever asked. I executed the plan. You know, in those words. So go
yeah,
ahead.
and then Kevin says, "Yes, you did, but as I knew it,
Yeah, yeah,
you did what I told you to do at the time until I found something that I didn't know. But you only knew what I knew at that time."
yes, yeah, and he even says, you know, when he tells that I would give it all up for another day. You know, because that's giving up a lot to be able to spend more time with his only son that he lost for how many decades. You know, and at the same time, you have him in a world where the creator, you know, as like Angela says, is everybody sees him as a creator, but at the same time, Clue, who is in charge of the world, is saying that he's like the anti-deity because he's wanting people's or not people, the program's vision of Kevin Flynn as this god to stop and aim more toward him as, hey, look, I'm the person that's in charge of this place now. So I
Mhm.
am your god. I'm your new god.
I kind of look at it like the super churches or the Church of Satan or
Right. Always trying to say I'm better than this one, you know.
yeah, exactly.
Well, when you get right down to it, no one has a clear cut idea of what it should be. And even the creator himself goes, "Well, I just learned something new, so guess what? We're going to go with that now."
And yeah, I have to agree with that, you know, because the human mind has a lot to it, and there's a lot of philosophy and a lot of differences in opinions and differences of beliefs, and people's minds and thoughts evolve into something else,
Mhm.
you know, and you know, he's right. It says it sounds like a God versus Lucifer argument, whereas Flynn is the creator and Clue is kind of the Lucifer. But at the same time, can you call Clue evil for doing what he was told?
I see. No, you can't really. But at the same time, I see Clue more as a Hitler figure.
Anything that he doesn't want, he gets rid of.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean
Mhm.
that's what Flynn even says too. He can't create programs. He can either destroy or repurpose them. So that's what he's doing is he's repurposing all these programs. You know, because in the first part, when they're on the recognizer and that guy goes up to each one, he goes rectify or games. You know, basically any program that's going to be rectified goes away and their programming gets redone so that they are now basically slaves to Clue's orders.
Uh,
That was actually. Oh, go ahead.
no. I was kind of.
I basically saw two storylines. There was the relationship between the programs and man, and then there was the relationship between Clue as the favorite son versus the and I forget what they were called.
Oh, the ISOs.
That, yeah,
Isomorphic
the
algorithms.
ISOs. And the relationship of the ISOs, which would be like the battle between angels and humanity for God's favor.
Yeah, because then you could also involve like seraphim and stuff like that. There's a lot of there could be, depending on how you see it, there could be a lot of religious intonation. And
I saw a lot of it.
Oh, absolutely. And that's also another thing that's glanced over too. Go ahead, Jim.
Let me put it to you like this. When you really stop and think about it, the creator is a human. The programs are following the creator. But when you bring the ISOs into it, they're the first gods.
They just manifested, as he says, manifested like a flame. They just happened. They weren't created. They just kind of came out of nowhere. They were spawned of nothingness, of like pure energy.
Yeah.
Clue saw this as an abomination, so he destroyed them all, except for the one, of course.
Yeah.
But it was basically genocide, and they even say that in the movie too. It was genocide.
Yeah.
So that's, I mean, what we're touching upon is something that not a whole lot of critics, actually, I don't think any critics really touched upon the philosophy of the movie, because they're too busy with, the character development was terrible, or the special effects were terrible, or whatever. They don't understand that some movies can have subtle nuance to them that they are not really looking for as critics, because they probably glance over a movie, they watch it, and then they kind of give like a 5 seconds.
The character development in these stories mostly took place off screen.
Yes. Yeah. And a lot of people were also disappointed with the second movie, because they said like there's just so much exposition to just cram in there that you miss out on a lot of character development, stuff like that, because you have to kind of link the two movies. I mean, by themselves, they are two standalone movies that have a connection. And the fact that you're trying to relate the second one to the first one, you're going to have a whole lot of exposition that you have to cram in there, but at the cost of character development or story development or just plain out content. Because if you really want to get a good movie in that will connect the two of them, that movie's going to be about 4 to 5 hours long if you want to connect all the dots, cross all the T's. So you're going to have a whole lot of necessary exposition, storytelling, character development, content that movie would just be way too long. So you're going to have a lot of stuff on the cutting room floor that's just not going to be able to be in the movie. So, that's the thing with that. So it was, I can understand where, and actually see where, the directors and everybody else that's involved, that they would have to kind of cut a lot of stuff just to get a good movie together. And now, who didn't like Castor, characterized by what's his face,
David Bowie. He was a David Bowie ripoff, and it was wasn't it
I can't remember who
Podanko or whatever.
No, it was
Michael Sheen.
Michael Sheen, yes, Michael Sheen. And I'm very familiar with all of the trivia for this, but Michael Sheen, he loved the first movie. So when they offered him a part in the second movie, he told his agent, "I want to accept that right now." And his agent actually said, "Wait, let's try to negotiate first." because if they, because the his agent was like, if they see us as accepting this part right away, they're going to lowball us on pay. So Michael Sheen was just like, "Oh, come on, I want this role. Come on, come on, come on." But the agent was just like, "Come on, hold on, just let's just chill, and then let's see what they have to offer us, and then maybe we can, maybe we can see, go from there as far as pay goes." And Michael Sheen was just like, "Ah, fine, whatever." But I loved his character. His character was quirky. He basically put his heart and soul into this character. It
Oh, yeah.
was
He was great. It was phenomenal. I
Yeah,
enjoyed it.
and I never would have expected him to be the turncoat. And but thing is, he's looking out for number one, like you always have to in that kind of a situation. But he and Clue kind of had this little deal, this agreement that when Clue disappeared into the real world, that Castor would have control of the city. And Clue was just like, no, I'm going to rescind that agreement because Castor didn't turn over what he promised. Yeah, sure, he gave him the disc, but Clue also wanted Flynn himself. That's why he said, I presume that they perished on the elevator. And then Clue's is like, turns to Ringo, he goes, find them. And Ringo's like, okay, whatever. So in Clue's eyes, Castor didn't fulfill his side of the bargain. So he's just like, you know what? You didn't do your side. I'm just going to kill you. So,
Right.
and now this has to go. Everybody has to always include this. What did you think about Daft Punk as the DJs? Was that not cool or what? Giving them a cameo
was.
as the DJs in there. And the fact that they used the same kind of helmets, but they kind of tronified them and gave them that look. That was I saw that and I'm like, oh, that is so awesome. And then they changed the music and all that when things got all pumped up. And I mean, my favorite song in the entire soundtrack, apart from the dogfight song, is the one that they played when they were walking into the End of Line Club. That's probably because it's just two do 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 do. That was just awesome. But yeah, giving them as a cameo as on their own movie is awesome. Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, they did everything as far as music goes, and to just kind of top it all off with them actually being in the movie, that was just like frosting on the cake. But I feel like I'm talking too much. Don't you guys have something to say? I mean, I could geek out to this thing for hours.
Oh, I know you can. And I'm letting see. This is what I want. I mean, I'll chime in when necessary, but go ahead, man.
Even some just said,
talking.
"Do James and Angela want to talk at all today?"
I've been talking.
Oh yeah, but I think it's. I guess I think I just feel like I've been doing the most talking here. So.
That's because
Well-
you have been doing the most talking. It sounds like you did quite a bit of research before the show.
Oh, I've read the trivia on this movie. I've watched the commentary several times. I've watched the movie dozens of times. I can basically tell you everything that happens at any particular moment.
And
But-
I'm brand new to this, so
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, what
yeah.
did you? Okay. Well, you saw. Okay, so the first movie you saw the light cycles. The second movie, what did you think between the as the difference between the first movie and the second movie as far as the light cycles goes? A nice transition, or would you prefer one or the other?
I like the look of the light cycles in the new movie.
Mm-hmm. Would you say that they're done a lot better?
But I enjoyed the fact that the effects matched what the technology was capable of at the time.
Yeah, yeah. That I actually have to agree because I would say it is kind of apples and oranges between the first and second one because you have different technology.
Exactly. If you look at what video games were when the first movie came out, the effects matched the technology in video games at the time.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking. Go ahead.
If you look at what video games look like now, you needed a more fluid more um like a
Realistic.
smoother, more realistic flow to everything.
Hmm.
And I thought it was very well demonstrated.
It really was. And even some of the stuff that they actually did in Tron Legacy was while it wasn't necessarily groundbreaking for the time, they actually did put a lot of stuff in that other movies started using afterwards. Like your de-aging of, I mean, it was kind of done a little bit poorly, but
Yeah, it was kind of bad. It made him look more plastic than.
yeah.
Yeah, but he still looked better than what Kurt Russell did in Guardians 2. That was just horrible.
Well, it set a precedent going forward with other movies and their de-aging. And somebody actually, you guys know what deep fakes are, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Somebody actually did a deep fake of what Kevin Flynn would look like and then compared it to the de-aging in the movie, and you're like, wow, that deep fake looks better. so, so you have a fake deep fake compared to a fake de-aging. You're like, can you put that deep fake in the movie instead? You did. Somebody with a little budget PC in their house did a better job of a movie 13 years ago. I mean, of
Well,
course,
see,
but
that's funny.
it
Is
is.
do you know what got green screen and a lot of this like Sin City off the ground?
Mm-mm.
A little known movie called Sky Captain in the World of Tomorrow.
Oh yeah,
Oh.
And the
I
guy that created that movie, he his trailer was 3.5 minutes long, done on a fucking desktop,
oh wow.
and he transferred it over to a CD and played that CD for everyone that was in the movie. And a lot of them took the guild minimum to get that project off the ground.
Hmm. Wasn't that the movie that came out just before Tron Legacy did?
Yes, it did.
I believe the lack of success between that movie and Tron Legacy, even though Tron Legacy made its money back, but they made a little bit of profit. But Disney decided to not pursue any further sequels because Tron Legacy didn't do as well as they had hoped, and because of the failure of that Sky Captain in the World of Tomorrow, to them they had two flops back to back. So they're like, we're not going to risk it. We're just going to go to other IPs that we know are, proven winners. Hence all these comic book movies that you see all over the place, or
Well,
superhero movies, etc.
Sin City was a graphic novel.
Yeah, I mean, I never saw Sky Captain, so I do have to apologize. Nor do I ever watch the Sin Cities, but I get, like, from a purely objective point of view, I'm like, you're going to, obviously, as a company, you're going to go off of something that's going to get you money. That's,
Oh yeah.
profit is what's going to, it's going to sell a lot, or it's going to speak a lot more than an unsuccessful movie, even though it was philosophically deep. Nobody cares about philosophy anymore. They want
No.
they want to be able to basically turn their brains off and watch a movie and eat popcorn.
Well,
you know?
if you look at Twitter, that's what a lot of Twitter is philosophical disputes
That is true.
among if you were in a special ed class.
It's definitely a lens that you have to view it through.
No, it's like,
I hate
hey, you're
using
the
that
smartest
analogy, but
retard,
it's
but
true.
you got the most gold stars. But guess what? You're still in special ed, motherfucker. It's kind of the way I look at Twitter.
Yeah, I avoid Twitter like the plague. It's
Oh, I
just,
love it.
no, thing is, I just can't, I can't put that much effort into. I mean, if I want to shit post, I'll go to Reddit. Reddit is my shit posting arena. Twitter is just, you don't get enough space to write shit posts. There you go.
Yeah,
Uh,
but see, you know
Angela.
that you can get kicked off of Reddit,
Yeah, yeah, I
but
agree.
Twitter now booting anybody is you wasn't going to do that, Elon,
Yeah.
and that's the both sides argument there.
Yeah, I think that if you ever do want to have me on again, we'll let Angela pick the movie and let her geek out. Because it sounds like the three of us have a lot of similarities in the kind of movies that we've seen and that we've liked.
Oh
So
yeah.
yeah, absolutely, that'll have to happen. Now we have to address the elephant in the room, which is the light jet sequence.
Loved it.
That was my favorite part of the movie by far. Because you have this you have this one lowly light fighter against what, five? I think it was five light jets. Clue and
Uh-huh.
Clue, Rinsler, and then like three other dark, or I believe they're called blackguards. And Sam's just like, because Flynn goes, Sam, take the turret, and Sam's like, huh? And he pushes a button, spins him around back to this tail gun that's got two big old cannons that just kind of face rearward, and you have like, I think it's like 180 degrees of movement, and he's just having the time of his life, just picking them off, just picking them off, just picking them off. And then they do the flat up, which I thought was a really cool and very well planned out, the stall. They did the directly straight up stall, which they knew was going to get the light jet behind them in front of them, so they went straight up, did the stall, and then they went back down. The engines re-engaged, and now they're just like, they're right behind this guy, and then Cora just shoots this guy, and his head just goes and turns his head into a hollow tree stump. And it was beautifully done. And the fact that all of it was done on green screen, but they made it look so realistic, and
Exactly.
it was just, I mean, I will definitely give kudos to the creators, and just the fact that they put their heart and souls into it, and it just made it look so realistic that it was just mind boggling. And who got the World War II reference of when one of the light fighters engines got bashed by Clue's light jet, that it started doing that little spin, like the death spin that a lot of
Uh-huh.
a lot of the bombers did in World War II on their bombing runs whenever they got shot. What was the one thing that they did? They started going in those little death spirals. I love that they made that analogy to that. And then uh I'll say it gives me goosebumps talking about it. When Flynn looks up and Ringo's above him, he goes, "Tron, what have you become?" I'm like, "Oh, that is so awesome!" And then Rensler stops behind him. He starts shaking his head like, "Oh my god, what just happened?" And then he just flies off. And then Clues was like, "I'm gonna shoot the shit out of your airplane now." And then next thing you know, their engine gets shot out, and they're in this death spiral. And then all of a sudden, you see Renzer fly toward Clue, and he goes, "I fight for the users." And then boom, the two aircraft just collide. And then one of the other things you might not have noticed is that when their light jets explode, Clue's light jet explodes with a larger explosion, because if you didn't know, it had more energy in it. It had more guns, and it was also from a higher ranking individual. So whereas Rinsler's jet exploded normally like the other blackguards, Clue's exploded much bigger. So that was a nice little tie-in to his power. And
Yeah.
then you also notice that when Rinsler was going to make another jet, and this is when he knocked him into the CS simulation, when Clue made that other light jet that he made after taking the baton from Rinsler, it wasn't the same. It wasn't the same kind of light jet that he had made previously. It was one of those secondaries, because that baton belonged to Rinsler, and hence, when you make it into a jet, it is Rinsler's secondary jet, not Clue's primary or secondary. He only had a primary. He didn't have a secondary. So I thought that was another nice little analogy. And this is just one of those little things that I look for in these movies
Yeah.
that you never really notice unless you've watched them 100 times, like I have. But yeah, and then of course you have at the end you have the big confrontation between the creator and his creation. And then he's like, "I did everything that you ever asked," and then Flynn's like, "As you saw it." Then we have this whole father son kind of argument, and Clue doesn't
Yeah. See,
understand. Go ahead, man.
Well, if you notice, he gets a better reception from Clue than what he did his own father.
Yes. Yeah.
For after not seeing each other for so many years,
Mm-hmm.
he got that hug, the pat on the back, and
Well,
then found out that it wasn't him.
oh yeah, yeah. Because it's like, oh, so because he was like, I'm not your father, Sam, but I'm very, very happy to see you. And Sam's like, oh shit.
Yeah, I mean, as opposed to when his father's now doing
Oh, when he's confronting Clue.
Sensu's war,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
The Art of War.
Yeah.
pretty much, yeah.
Well, I mean, when Flynn confronts Clue, he's like, Clue, he goes, Flynn goes, you don't look so bad. Like, wow, he's using sarcasm with this guy that just wants to freaking kill him. But another interesting thing when they do have their confrontation, and when Clue realizes that Flynn gave his disc to Sam to get them out, Clue does not murder Flynn. When he takes that disc and he's about to, it looks like he's over him. He's got the disc up in the air, and then he tosses it down. He had every ability to kill Flynn, but he doesn't. Instead, the disc goes right next to Flynn's head, and Clue just runs to get the disc back. That to me says he was not murderous in intent. He actually only was, he was running with one purpose, and that's to make the perfect system. He doesn't care about Flynn's
He
death.
was also running on jealousy.
Yes.
Like pure. That's really what it is. Pure and simple. The relationship that he thought was between him and Kevin Flynn,
Mm-hmm.
which he viewed as a father-son relationship,
Right.
was not what it actually was. There was a real son that was taking his place.
Yeah. And and I can tell you that I have 4 brothers and a sister. As a middle child, I can understand where you would have your sibling rivalry, so to speak. But at the same time, Clue's. I wouldn't. Would you call Clue a son of sorts? Kind of in a roundabout sort of way.
He was the favorite son in
Uh,
system
Yeah, in the system. Yeah.
until the ISOs came into being, which is why
Mhm.
he wiped them all out. They
Jealousy.
took his father's love.
Yeah,
um,
and they saw it as an imperfection. You know, so
He
and
was able to use them being an imperfection as an excuse.
mhm. Yeah, I mean, he had to justify the genocide of the ISOs, so he saw that as they are parasites, they're infections, and we have to get rid of the infection. Clue saw them. Yeah, I mean, your analogy is also correct. He saw that out of jealousy, like, I have to get rid of them because they are taking all the attention of this guy away from where it should be, which is creating the perfect system. Whereas you have the ISOs that come out of nothing. Clue can see them as an impairment in his ability to do what he wants to do or needs to do. Jealousy over them taking Flynn's attention, and then you can also see them as he sees them as an infection in a healthy system, so he has to get rid of
Mhm.
them. So there's any different number of ways that he can see them, or all of the above. So he justifies the genocide of the ISOs as I'm just doing what I think is the best thing for the system.
Yes, and up until a certain point, up until the point where he doesn't kill Flynn,
Mm-hmm.
you can turn around and say he's literally just operating according to his programming,
Exactly.
which was to create the perfect system. Then he makes that choice not to kill Flynn.
Yeah.
And it's literally Yeah, you're jealous. You want to eliminate everything that's taking away your father's attention and approval.
Yeah, and it's like you a lot of people like to say the whole God and Jesus kind of thing. Where you have Flynn as the God, and then you have Clue as the Jesus. But it's an interesting analogy, but is it necessarily true?
I definitely think that Tira is closer to right on that with the analogy of Flynn as God versus Clue as Lucifer,
Hmm. So yeah.
rather than God versus God over Jesus type of thing.
Well, and even Castor says, "Behold, the Son of our Maker." So they're seeing Sam, and he's talking about Sam. So in this case, Castor is seeing Sam as like your Jesus character, with Flynn being the God character. And if that's the case,
And
what
in
kind of
that case, I can see the God versus Jesus
Mhm.
thing, or
Yeah,
God and Jesus thing.
yeah. There's just so much underlying message going on as far as religious implications. So it's like, how do you see it? I mean, it would seem like different characters see it in different ways. So how does this program see it over this program? How does this program play on it as opposed to this person? And you've got humans, you've got users, actual users in the environment that they made, like sort of like in the first movie, when Sark's talking to the MCP, and he says, when MCP says, "I've got a new recruit," and then Sark asks, "What kind of program is he?" And MCP says, "He's not any kind of program. He's a user." And then Sark gets nervous,
Uh-huh.
and the MCP says, "What's the matter, Sark? You look nervous." And then Sark says, he's a user. Users wrote us. And then he even went back to the MCP and said, "A user even wrote you." And then
Uh-huh.
that's when the MCP argued, no one user wrote him, because he's worth millions of their man years. So in essence, one person might have created the MCP originally as a chess program, as you hear later on, but other people have added to it. So in the MCP's eyes, it is the culmination of many, many, many different users' input. Whereas with the grid in the second movie, you have Kevin Flynn as the only creator. Hence, the MCP can't necessarily be seen as a god, whereas they see Kevin Flynn as the god because he's the one that created it. So you have a big difference between the two. So you can't see a God and a Jesus analogy. Like, you can't see MCP and Sark as the God and Jesus, whereas in Tron Legacy, you've got Kevin Flynn and Sam as your God and Jesus characters. Whereas Clue is like, yeah, he's like a secondary with the Lucifer character.
Hmm.
Almost like a fallen angel of sorts.
Okay,
It's
we got
literally
about 2 minutes before this one's going to cut out.
Well, then do we want to wrap up,
So
or do we want to keep going?
I'll keep going as long as you want to.
Might as well.
And we're in the middle of a good conversation here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop it
Okay.
and then start another one. And those that are watching with us,
Clue's a cherub.
yeah.
someone will, I think Moon's been posting it to Discord. If you'll post the next link
I
for
haven't.
part 3.
I don't even have Discord open. I've been putting it in the chat here. So if you have
Okay.
a third one going, I will go ahead and put it in the chat.
Okay, I got to stop it in order to do that.
Okay, so we'll
I'm
be
gonna
right
do
back,
that
guys. I'll get a link
now.
to you in just a second.
Okay.
Yeah, usually wait until
And that's